the problem we've got at the moment is we've got financial planners leaving the business. So we had 3,000 financial planners leave the industry last year, which resulted in 20,000 planners still being in the industry. That number is expected to diminish to 13,000 by 2023. So you go from 23,000 to 13,000. You've got less planners. The other thing you've got is higher compliance, which is making it very hard for planners to make money. So based on the amount of work that they have to do to create a statement of advice, which is a document that they must give a client prior to providing advice, that's an 80 to 90 page document. Now, we outsource those at a cost of anywhere from $500 to $700.
Wow.
If you read a statement of advice, there's a lot of tick box material in there, warnings for clients, repetitiveness. So it's just got to the point where financial planners are saying it's just too hard on our business model to provide a service to clients at a reasonable price. The cost of financial planning over the last 2 years on average has gone up by 28%. So we're at risk here of everyday Australians not being able to afford financial planning and only the wealthy getting financial planning. And you just continue to get this gap between who's wealthy and who's not. And you would argue that who needs the advice the most? It's everyday Australians and mum and dad. So the Financial Services Council has realised this, and they're starting now to push for a scrapping of the statement of advice and bringing what they call a letter of advice, which would be clear, concise, punchy. This is what you're invested in. These are the costs. These are the risks. It's about you having faith in the professionalism of your planner, not making sure your planner completes a 90-page document with all the risks and warnings. So, look, I think it's brilliant that this stuff's happening, but what is so frustrating is, as a planner, and this isn't just financial planning, a mutual client of ours was in our office earlier this week. They're in waste management. Yep. Just government regulations and policies that are implemented when particular people that come up with these policies do not have a clear understanding of the logistics of how an industry works. And they put these policies in place that at the end of the day just end up hurting the consumer. There needs to be a balance of protecting the consumer and making sure that an industry can succeed, and that in our case, advice can be provided to people at a reasonable price. Otherwise, people don't get advice. So it's probably similar in your industry, Jace.
Yeah, definitely. But having seen, giving referrals to get statement of advice and knowing that nobody reads that 80 or 90 page document, I think the letter of advice you just mentioned, that gets me excited that clients are going to get something that's of value. They're going to pay the right price for it, but it's going to have everything they need to know. And if it's a couple of pages, they're more likely to read it and understand it rather than...
Well, we tell our clients they need to read the statement of advice, and we leave it in their hands, and we obviously take them through it, and we explain what they need to know, the risks associated, the costs. But we cannot physically sit there and read a 90-page document. We would not get any work done. We'd see one client a day if we were lucky. So you are reliant on the client going home and reading that. And who has got time to read 80, 90 pages? And in all honesty, they won't understand half of it. And that's the worst thing. Half of it is written in language to protect the planner. The mum and dads who are not financial planners don't understand it. It's so silly when you think about it.
It loses its commercial benefit to the consumer and to the business owner as well. And I think it's just the maturity of an industry. Like, you'll usually find an industry is unregulated when it first begins, and then it gets big. But there's always a sweet spot in the industry when it self-regulates, because people find that it's really important to do the right things, right? Because it's got big enough. And I've always found a self-regulated industry is still very commercial because people understand the dynamics of it. As soon as it goes to that next level where it's all about red tape, it becomes very restricted. But the one thing I know about business, it'll always evolve. And like what Nick says there, that to me, that letter of advice sounds relevant, that's a direct benefit to the consumer being able to understand it. And that's what it's about. People need to know what they're getting into, not have 90 pages that they have no idea and will never read. It just doesn't make any sense. So I think that's spot on.